blindsided by things nobody at embarkation warns you about. You picture pool days, specialty dining, and sunsets from your balcony. But the truth is, cruise ships are floating cities, and cities come with chaos. You can lose a port day in minutes, you can get trapped in your cabin, you can watch the ship sail away without you. And some of the most shocking things happen in plain sight on the Lido deck, while everyone acts like it's normal. Here's the catch. The worst surprises usually hit the least prepared cruisers. Your cruise can start with a medical emergency before you even reach your first port. You can board a Royal Caribbean or Carnival ship, unpack in your stateroom, head to the buffet, and then hear the captain announce a sudden course change. Most cruisers don't realise how often ships deal with medical evacuations at sea. You can see a helicopter hover above the top deck, or feel the ship slow down while a Coast Guard transfer happens offshore. It feels unreal until your dinner reservation changes, your port day disappears, and your whole schedule gets rewritten in one announcement. That matters because one emergency can wipe out the exact experience you booked. You can miss a shore excursion, lose a beach day, or arrive late enough that your drink package feels like the only thing left from the plan you imagined. The truth is, the cruise line will always protect life first, and your itinerary comes second. That is the right call, but it still hits your vacation hard. Your move is simple. Never treat any port as guaranteed. Book refundable plans when you can. Put your must-do activity earlier in the sailing if possible. And always carry travel insurance that covers interruptions. Because on a cruise ship, one stranger's emergency can become your missed highlight. Then comes the nightmare every cruiser laughs at until it happens right in front of you. You can get left behind at the pier. On Carnival, Norwegian, MSC and Royal Caribbean, you can watch pier runners sprint toward the gangway, while the horn blasts and the crew starts pulling up the lines. Most people think the ship will wait if you are only a few minutes late. But actually, if you booked your own beach club, took your own taxi, or wandered too far from the port, the ship can and will sail without you. Here's the catch. Cruise time is not always local time. Your phone can switch. Your watch can stay wrong. The port can look close enough to walk until traffic stops moving. And if you are at a tender port, the last tender can leave long before final all aboard. That is how a relaxed lunch turns into panic on the dock. This matters because getting left behind is expensive fast. You can lose your cabin for the night, pay last-minute hotel rates, buy a same-day flight, and spend hours proving where your passport and medications are. If you do not have the right documents with you, the problem gets worse. Your pro move is non-negotiable. Return to the port area at least 1 hour before all aboard. Carry your passport, cash, and essential meds off the ship every single port day. And if you book a shore excursion, understand one brutal truth. Cruise line excursions get protection. Independent tours usually do not. You can also walk straight into a floating quarantine and not realise it until your vacation is suddenly reduced to 4 walls and room service trays. On ships from Princess to Royal Caribbean to Carnival, stomach bugs can spread with shocking speed. One touch on a buffet tongue, one elevator button, one handrail near the Lido deck pool. And just like that, you can wake up sick, call guest services, and get told to remain in your cabin or stateroom for isolation. Most cruisers do not realise how fast norovirus protocols kick in. Staff can close self-serve stations at the buffet. Crew can sanitise every surface non-stop. Public bathrooms can get monitored. You can see people getting extra careful. But by then, the outbreak rumour has already started spreading through every deck. Why does it matter? Because cabin confinement destroys the vacation you paid for. You can miss specialty dining, miss your shore excursion, miss the sail-away party, and spend prime cruise time staring at your bathroom door. And if multiple people in your room get sick, your entire cabin turns into a recovery zone. The smart move is boring, and that is exactly why it works. Wash your hands with soap before every meal. Use sanitizer, but do not rely on it alone. Skip the buffet if you see obvious hygiene issues. And if you feel sick, report it early. Hiding it only makes the ship clamp down harder later. There is something even more shocking hiding behind all the music and frozen cocktails. Cruise ships have jails. Not dramatic movie jails with bars and handcuffs on display, but secure holding areas where you can be taken if things get out of control. On Norwegian and Royal Caribbean sailings, security can respond in minutes if a fight breaks out near the casino, the buffet, or outside a late-night venue. On Carnival, one bad decision after too many drinks can turn a fun sea day into an interview with ship security. The truth is, cruise lines treat disorder fast because there is nowhere else to send you in the middle of the ocean. If you threaten crew, hit another guest, damage property, or keep escalating after warnings, you can be confined until the next port. Most cruisers think that only happens to extreme cases. But wait, a loud argument, intoxication, or refusal to follow instructions can spiral much faster than you expect. This matters because getting detained on board can end your trip and follow you long after the cruise ends. You can be removed at the next port, banned by the cruise line, and stuck paying your own way home. Any money you spent on the cruise, drink package, or specialty dining can become irrelevant in one night. Your action step is simple. Treat the ship like an airport with a jail attached. If tension starts rising, walk away immediately. If alcohol is involved, walk away faster. On a cruise ship, pride is expensive. And yes, there is another hidden room on board that most cruisers do not want to think about until they hear the crew mention a serious incident. Cruise ships have morgues. They have to. On long sailings with older passengers, rough weather, and thousands of people on board, deaths do happen. You can be on an MSC or Holland America sailing, enjoying a quiet breakfast while the crew is privately handling a medical loss on another deck. You will not see much because the entire system is built to keep operations calm and respectful. Most people think cruise ships are all celebration, all the time. But actually they are self-contained cities. That means hospitals, medical staff, emergency protocols, and places to hold a body until the next appropriate port. It sounds dark, but it matters because it shows you how seriously the ship handles real emergencies behind the scenes. Why should you care? Because it changes how you should travel. If you or someone in your cabin has health issues, you cannot assume the onboard medical centre is a full land hospital. You can get stabilised. You can get evaluated. But advanced care can still depend on the next port or an evacuation. Your pro move is to cruise with documentation. Pack medications in your carry-on at embarkation. Bring a printed list of conditions and prescriptions. And if you are sailing with an older relative, do not skip medical travel coverage. The ship is prepared, but you need to be prepared too. Then there is the stateroom disaster that can wreck your cruise without making headlines. Your cabin can flood, your toilet can stop working, your air conditioning can die in the middle of a humid Caribbean night. On Carnival and Royal Caribbean ships, plumbing backups and maintenance issues do happen. On older ships, you can hear reports of water leaks from ceilings, soaked carpets, or cabins being taken out of service entirely. It does not happen every sailing, but when it hits your room, the vacation vibe disappears instantly. Here's the catch. Cabin problems are not always fixed in an hour. If the issue affects multiple staterooms, engineering can be overwhelmed. You can get moved. You can spend hours waiting for updates. You can lose the unpacked setup you carefully created on day one. And if your bathroom is unusable, that tiny inconvenience becomes a full-blown crisis by bedtime. This matters because your cabin is your recovery zone. It is where you shower, sleep, change for dinner, and escape the crowds. Once that space stops functioning, everything feels harder. Even a good port day feels different when you return to a damp room and a bad smell. Your action step is immediate. The second you notice a leak, no flush, weak AC or strange odour, report it through guest services and your cabin steward. Take photos, ask for a repair timeline, and if the issue is serious, do not settle for "we're looking into it." Politely ask about a room move or onboard credit right away. You can also lose hours of your vacation to attend a port without ever stepping on land. Most cruisers get excited when they hear about a beautiful island stop, then forget the catch. If the ship cannot dock directly, you have to take a tender boat to shore. On MSC, Norwegian and smaller port Royal Caribbean itineraries, weather and swell can turn that process into chaos. You can line up early, wait forever, and still watch the crew suspend tender operations because conditions changed in minutes. Most people think a port day is a port day, but actually, a tender port is fragile. Wind matters. Waves matter. Timing matters. If the sea gets rough, the ride can be delayed, shortened, or cancelled completely. And if you are on a later tender, Half your morning can vanish before your shore excursion even starts. This is the one that shocks cruisers who planned every minute. Why does it matter? Because tender ports steal time silently. You can lose a beach reservation, arrive too late for a tour, or spend the best part of the day standing in a queue instead of exploring. If you are prone to motion sickness, the tender ride can hit harder than the cruise itself. Your pro tip is easy. Never plan a tender port like a docked port. Book early meeting times only if the cruise line handles the logistics. Grab the first tender tickets you can. And bring motion sickness relief even if the ship has felt smooth the whole trip. Another shock hits when you realise your drink package is not a golden ticket. On Norwegian, Carnival, and Royal Caribbean, you can absolutely still get surprise charges even after paying for a package. Premium brands can cost extra. Bottled water rules can vary. Specialty coffee may be included on one line and excluded on another. And if you get visibly intoxicated, the crew can cut you off no matter what you paid. The truth is, the drink package is loaded with terms most cruisers barely read. There can be daily limits. There can be one drink at a time rules. There can be required package purchases for both adults in the same cabin. You can tap your card at a bar all day and still open your final account to find charges you never expected. That matters because onboard spending grows fast when you stop checking. One upgraded whiskey here, one energy drink there, one wine by the glass at specialty dining. Suddenly your all-inclusive feeling is gone. And if you argue at the bar after a cut-off, you risk drawing security attention too. Your move is simple. Read the package rules before embarkation, not after your first poolside cocktail. Check your onboard account every day in the app or on the cabin TV. And if a drink is not clearly included, ask before you order. One 10-second question can save you a nasty final night surprise. You can even get moved to a different cabin before you ever set foot on the ship. Most cruisers think the stateroom they picked is locked in the second they pay the deposit. But wait, cruise lines can reassign cabins for operational reasons, overbooking, maintenance, or upgrades. On MSC, Carnival, and Norwegian, you can sometimes log in before embarkation and discover your room number changed overnight. Sometimes it is better, sometimes it is much worse. Here's why that is so frustrating. You might have picked a quiet deck, a midship location, or a specific balcony for a reason. Then you end up under the buffet, above the theatre, or near a service area with non-stop noise. If you booked a guaranteed cabin category to save money, you are especially exposed to whatever assignment appears last minute. This matters because cabin location changes everything. Sleep quality, elevator access, motion, noise, convenience on port day. A free upgrade can still feel like a downgrade if it ruins your routine. Most cruisers do not realise how much their cruise mood depends on where they sleep. Your action step is to monitor your booking obsessively in the final days before sailing. Screenshot your original cabin assignment. If a change appears, call immediately and ask what happened. And if cabin location matters more than price, avoid guarantee fares and choose your exact stateroom from the start. Then there is the privacy myth that catches a lot of first-time cruisers off guard. Your stateroom is yours, but it is not untouchable. Crew can enter for cleaning, maintenance, safety checks, minibar service on some lines, and emergency inspections. On Royal Caribbean and Carnival, you can leave for breakfast and come back to find engineering fixed an issue you reported, or housekeeping entered while you were gone. That is normal ship life, not a scandal. But most cruisers do not think about it until they leave valuables scattered everywhere. The truth is, a cruise ship is not like a hotel on land in every way. Safety rules are tighter. Fire risk matters more. Plumbing matters more. If there is a concern about a smell, a leak, a balcony door, or a prohibited item, entry can happen fast. And yes, balcony smoking rules are enforced aggressively because one cigarette can create a real emergency at sea. Why does that matter? Because anything left out can be seen, moved, or misplaced during a busy service day. And if you bring prohibited items, you are gambling against a system that checks harder than you think. Lose that gamble, and the rest of your cruise gets uncomfortable quickly. Your pro move is simple. Use the cabin safe for passports, cash, jewellery, and medicine you do not need immediately. Keep your stateroom tidy. And never assume "do not disturb" protects you from every operational need on the ship. One of the ugliest surprises happens when cruise rules meet vacation behaviour. You can be removed from the ship for things that people on land shrug off. Weed gummies, smoking on the balcony, bringing a drone into a restricted port area, getting into a hallway fight at 1 a.m. On Carnival and Royal Caribbean, you can see people walk onto a ship, excited at embarkation, and walk off escorted a few days later after one stupid choice. Most people think cruise lines only crack down on extreme cases. But actually, they are protecting safety, port relationships, and liability. If you violate policies, especially around drugs, violence, or restricted items, the crew does not need much patience. One investigation can turn into confiscation, interviews, and disembarkation at the next stop. This matters because the fallout is brutal. You can lose the rest of your cruise with no refund. You can get banned from the line. You can face local authorities depending on the port. And if your whole cabin is tied to the issue, everyone's vacation can get dragged into the mess. Your action step is blunt. Read the prohibited item list before you pack. Do not test balcony smoking rules. Do not assume a substance that is legal at home is acceptable at sea or in every port. Cruise ships feel relaxed, but enforcement is real. And now for one of the most expensive mistakes of all. Your independent shore excursion can betray you. You can book a cheaper snorkeling trip or island tour outside the cruise line, save a little money, and feel smart. Then traffic locks up, a ferry runs late, a guide overbooks the van. Suddenly you are watching the clock, sweating through your shirt, and realizing the ship does not care why you are late. On Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, and MSC itineraries, this scenario plays out far more often than cruisers admit. Here's the catch. If you booked through the cruise line, the ship usually has an obligation to work with you if the excursion runs late. If you booked on your own, you own the risk. Most people focus on price. The truth is, the hidden value is protection. Why does it matter? Because missing the ship from an independent tour can cost far more than the money you saved. You can pay for flights, hotels, transport to the next port, and replacement essentials. You can also lose your passport access if important documents stayed back in your cabin. Your pro move is simple. If the port is far from the main sites, book through the ship. If you go independent, build a giant time cushion and verify the operator's return guarantee in writing. Saving a few dollars is never worth racing the gangway. The final shock is that the cruise you imagined and the cruise you actually get can be two different vacations. You can picture endless calm, quiet mornings, and easy access to every venue. But in reality, you can face packed buffets, chair hogs on the Lido deck, sold-out specialty dining, screaming hallway neighbours, elevator lines, and apps that crash exactly when you need your schedule. On big Royal Caribbean and Carnival sailings, especially during peak weeks, the ship can feel less like a resort and more like controlled chaos. Most cruisers do not realise how much timing controls everything. The same ship can feel amazing at 7 a.m. and unbearable at noon. The same buffet can look civilised 1 minute and impossible the next. The same port day can be smooth for early risers and stressful for everyone else. That is the truth most cruise ads never show you. Why does it matter? Because the cruisers who love their vacation are usually not the luckiest. They are the most strategic. They know when to eat, when to move, when to avoid crowds, and when to skip the obvious thing everyone else is doing. Your action step is the best one in this entire video. Use the ship's schedule like a weapon. Eat earlier. Book sooner. Return before the rush. And whenever you can, zig while everyone else zags. That one mindset can save your whole cruise. So yes, shocking things really do happen on cruise ships, and now you know the ones that catch cruisers off guard the most. You can lose ports. You can get quarantined in your cabin. You can be left behind, reassigned, cut off, or even removed from the ship. But the truth is, almost every disaster on this list gets easier to handle when you expect it before embarkation. That is what separates a stressed cruiser from a smart one. If this opened your eyes, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment with the wildest thing you have ever seen on a cruise ship. And if you are planning your next sailing, keep watching, because your next video should be the one about the biggest cruise mistakes first-time cruisers make before they ever reach the terminal. That one can save you money, time, and a whole lot of regret before your next port day even begins.